importance to it.
Anyone else?
Make them angry.
Make him angry. Yeah, it pisses some people. Yeah.
Make him feel
Walk
less
away.
important.
What was it back there?
Walk away.
Walk away? No, but what do you do to a person when you ignore that person?
Make him feel less
It makes the
important.
mind act up even more.
What is it?
It makes the mind act up even more.
You invalidate them.
You invalidate them. We heard that several times. I was trying to get a louder voice. Yeah, that's what it is. You don't give value to that thing, to that person, whatever it is. People with anger problems, they just give importance to things that have no importance. Like a guy once walked out of a store. They had a, what was it? It's been about 10 years now when they had Vaughn's and other workers of similar stores were on strike. And you guys remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were walking around these stores, the very employees with signs that these places are immoral, don't shop here, and people still shop anyways, senses out of control. Gotta buy the damn thing. Hypnotized. And then a guy walks out of a store, and one of the protesters tells, guy walks out of a store, his little son trips, falls down, didn't hurt itself or anything, just fell, got up, and one of the protesters said, "You see what happens when you shop here." We would call that karma. It didn't know. You see what happens, when you shop here. And the father of the boy just completely lost, grabbed the guy by the neck, threw him on the floor, and beat him into a pulp. Got arrested, got sentenced, paid a bunch of fees, and it just messed his life up. Why just who cares? What the guy said. But he gave it importance. So similarly, we give so much importance to this mind. So much, mind's demands, and more you ignore it, the louder the beast gets. Until you have tried to control the mind, you have no clue what kind of a beast you're dealing with. But anyways, you have to do it. So when you have to practice to ignore it, and as you ignore it, it'll get louder and louder and wilder until it shuts up. It'll just die out. That's what's going to happen. So that's the first one, to ignore it. Number 2 is to regulate one's sensual activities. Sensual activities are activities like eating, sleeping, drinking, reading, whatever. Your sensual interaction with this world. If you regulate this, you have 50% conquered over your mind. In other words, what does that mean? That means that every day, this is basic yoga practice, by the way, that every day you get up at the same time. Every day you go to bed at the same time. Every day you eat. And if you eat every day at the same time and eat and rise at the same time, you're also going to pass stool and urine at the same time, which is also sensual activities. Funny ones, we don't talk about it, but they also have great importance. Try not to evacuate for a couple of days, see what happens. It's very important. I guess in Zimbabwe you do it too. Ha ha ha. Sorry about that one. If you do this, if you enter this routine, this is not very popular these days because you're not a cool guy if you do this. But if you do this, you will 50% conquer over your mind. You'll become a completely different person. The quality of your existence will increase, you won't believe it, if you have the guts to do it. And then the third thing that you can absolutely do, and this one's probably most important, and the previous two are contained within it, and this is spiritual practice. You have to have a regulated spiritual practice. Regular and regulated spiritual practice. Like, I don't know what your practice might be, but I chant. I sit down and I softly chant. That's my spiritual practice. So I do this every day for a few hours, no matter what, every day at the same time. That's a spiritual practice. And then within it I have a few other things that I throw in, and comes to about 5-6 hours every day. And so this is spiritual practice. You do it every day. You do it once a week. I don't know what your state is, but do it. Set yourself a certain standard. Like there's some chanting kits up there, meditation kits. You can grab those. But if you grab it, please make sure you leave $10 donation in the box, because that's what it takes about to produce one of those. So you do it regularly. If you do it once a week, okay. If this is where you're at, start there. But then over time, try to increase it. The reason why I'm telling you this, because sometimes people feel a little inspiration to start a spiritual journey, but then they kind of lose sight of, lose orientation where they're at on the map, and kind of get discouraged. But this is the map. This is the map, or actually at least a part of it. Kind of, it's not awfully too detailed, but it's some of it. And then what happens when you do this? When you follow these steps in completing the third one and maintaining all three going on, then you automatically come to the fourth one. And this is the crucial one without which you will never conquer your mind. And this is the superior experience. Superior experience. If you don't have this superior experience, your mind is always going to remain unsophisticated, uncultured beast that's dragging you down to mere biological, bestial platform of existence. Just constantly trying to reduce your otherwise sophisticated life to mere bestial life of eating, sleeping, and sex. Did I forget drinking? All right, puffing. A few other. But basically, basic bestial biological needs, your mind will reduce it down to that. You may philosophize this, that, the other thing, but all philosophy simply is meant to further these activities. And it's not awfully too sophisticated. With not awfully too sophisticated activities, you cannot have an awfully too sophisticated happiness. Period. So I'll stop there. Can anyone remember what the 4 steps were?
Ignore the mind.
Okay, first one, ignore the mind. Second, can we see a show of hands?
Have a regular schedule every day.
Regulate your sensual activities such as sleeping and eating, recreation and whatever it might be, reading. Yeah. Third,
regular and regulated spiritual practice.
Regulated and regular spiritual practice, and that does what?
Higher taste.
Yeah. There's an important mantra in the Bhagavad Gita that says that if you even though you may understand a certain thing, you will still not act accordingly. Why? Because you have not conquered your mind. Why? Because you have not experienced the higher taste. Because you cannot cut out the mind. You're going to have that mind. And unless you provide superior experience to this mind is going to drag you down to the green coconuts, pakora types of experiences. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop there, and if anyone has any questions or comments would like to add, you're welcome to do that at this time. Going once.
I have a question.
Yes.
I haven't read the whole Gita, but I heard at one point someone relating the reins as like our senses, and I got like a visual when you were talking about this wild horse, the mind that just takes you off.
Yeah.
And that basically, if you don't pull back the reins of the 5 senses, which are like these horses, that you get smashed up on the rocks and reincarnated again. And you
God
do it
knows
again
where it takes you. Yeah.
Is that a common? Is that a analogy that's commonly made? Because when I heard it, it made a lot of sense. But basically, that was a message like underlying all of it, that the senses and the consciousness was like the driving force within the carriage of the body.
The self is the passenger.
Right.
The body is like the chariot, and senses are the reins. No, actually, senses are the horses,
Right.
and
The
mind
mind
is the
is the
reins.
reins. Okay,
Yeah. And it's a very appropriate analogy because if you pull the reins too tight, the horse will rebel. That's why no one becomes an accomplished yogi all of a sudden. You have to follow these steps. You pull your mind too hard, the thing rebels and just takes you over to a, Australian pub or something.